Hi chaps and chapesses, welcome to the next episode of Porsche Files. We've all seen this. This is the intro. Can we ever get used to those? But anyway, as you can see from the title of the video, we're doing call outs and concerns for 992 they have a really juicy 991 in this Los Angeles reveal. You don't really see it. It's Brewster Green. I'm pretty sure it's Brewster Green. It's the Club Coupe, one of my all-time favorites. It makes the 911R look common. No, it's still 997. You'll probably see it in background. Anyway, I'm digressing already. Stick to the script. So, and we're obviously pretty late getting our bath towel down onto a 99 on the 992 sunbeds. Everyone else has done it before us, but we were looking at it and we thought, well, discussing with Ed can't be here today. Would love to drive that thing. And we thought there's a lack of criticism of the static object. It was just almost an extension of there it is. See this, I love that. It's, Club Coupe. One of my favourite greens. You could probably tell I'm a big green man. Anyway, we'll leave that playing in background. But we thought there's just a lack of kind of criticism or critique of the 992. Almost like an extension of Zuffenhausen's marketing arm more than anything else. And it was just pretty generic. I think someone like Mr. JWW mentioned that he didn't like what is now being called the nubbin in the US, which is this switch rather than lever or lever that you get on PDK. We'll fast forward it when Oliver Blumer comes on, we'll just whiz through that. But anyway, we thought, let's just call out some of the stuff which we think is quite unique and interesting, and some of that stuff does contain concerns as well. There are some items on here which are just genuinely outstanding. Love that ruby. And others that are outstanding but also contain a concern as well. Anyway, let's start off with the exterior. I'm a big fan of Michael Mauer. I've got to say that first. I think he's one of the best design heads that's knocking around currently, along with people like Marek Reichman at Aston Martin, Jerry McGovern at Land Rover. I'm not so sure about Ian Callum at Jaguar. Maybe he doesn't have the budget these days. But anyway. So 991 was introduced by Michael Mauer originally. And let's face it, any man who can take a Panamera .1 and turn it into something as attractive as a Panamera .2 in Sport Turismo format has got to know his onions. So I think I'd say 9.5 out of 10 for 992 as a revamp from 991. And I say that because this car has got that crispness and a modernity which maybe the 991 doesn't have so much. We've obviously been living with it for the past, 2012, getting on for 6-7 years or so, something like that. So we're used to 991 now. But I think they've done a great job because 991 for me was peak pretty 911 of the modern era, certainly since 996. It's dimensionally too big, and I've gone on record to say I think the 991 is too big. I have a 991.2 and I think it's slightly too big as a car, and that's the narrow-bodied car, not the wide-bodied car. This is even bigger because it's wide-bodied as well. But it is a pretty car, and there's a lot of real estate now on 992. It's bigger, slightly longer, wider track at the front as well. But anyway, from an exterior point of view, so in general, yes, I like it. From an exterior point of view, things to point out, a bit like waiting for a number 9 bus in the UK, nothing happens and then 2 arrive at once. Had no green available since, 997.2 with Porsche Racing Green, or was Porsche Racing Green phased out on 997.1? Can't remember, but 997 anyway saw Malachite and Porsche Racing Green. Yes, you could get PTS like oak metallic, some oak green metallic, etc. But generally speaking, you couldn't get greens. Now suddenly we not only have lizard green, which presumably is there just to piss off the GT3 RS people who thought they had a nice new unique colour on their RS. I probably wouldn't go for lizard green on the 992. As I said, there's a lot of real estate. Might suit a GTS or clearly an RS car. We've seen it on an RS car on Dot 2 anyway, haven't we? But most importantly, we've got a Venturite back, which I think could look absolutely terrific. Could look brilliant. So that's a good thing. I've got nothing negative to say about that. Greens are clearly back in town, and rightfully so. So what else do we have? Well, we have a much more rational, crisper front end design. So if you take that design element, some people thought that when they first saw the prototypes, these pretty much undisguised prototypes running around in the last few months around Nürburgring, etc., that it looked a bit square-rigged, a bit too square-faced, etc. Probably it doesn't look its best with a bright contrast colour, but when you think about all the technical functions that have now got to be incorporated into any modern-day car, particularly 911, then you can understand it, because now in that one single design element, rational design element, other than the number plate at the front, you've got everything there. You've got the radar, which presumably doubles up for this night vision option, which is now new to 992 or 911 via 992. You've got turn indicators, of course. You've got this active air management, which I understand also now is there to reduce the negative pressure that can build up under the wheel arches, which was normally vented in an analog way on the GT3 RS on 991.1 and 2, but now that's incorporated into it. You obviously also have the vents for the two rads. Here's Mr. Bloomer. Excuse me. He won't get out the way, but you've obviously got the radar there as well. So it's all of it now is incorporated, rationalised. I think quite elegantly, certainly efficiently, which is what you would expect from Porsche, all in one design element. And I think if you go to the rear, shall we speed this chap along? You've got the self-same thing going on there. Let's see if we can whiz things on a bit. So frankly, I think it's wholly successful. We'll see, once 992 hits the road, I think we're going to like it a lot, and we're going to grow used to the the more modern elements. Here's the eloquent and Mr. Mellifluous himself, Mark Webber. We'll let that drift in and out whilst he speaks to Arnie. Okay, so if you look at the rear elements as well, exactly the same rationalisation is going on. I think it's even probably more successful in some ways than the front, in as much as now you've got the number plate all incorporated within that single rear design element, that valance that sits sub-bumper. The parking sensors, yes, they're still in the bumper itself, they're still in that painted part of the bumper. But again, everything else, your reflectors, your PSE 2-pot, which is now very Audi RS ovoid looking, is it not? Better than PSE, stylistically anyway, of 991.2, that's for sure. But you've got the 2-pot or the standard 4-pot exhaust. You've obviously got the vents for the the left and right turbo. It's all incorporated, and particularly now, I think for the US market, and I suspect this is a US spec car, it's much better integrated for those bump stops that for federal regulatory reasons they used to have either side of the number plate, which always made the rear end of a 911 look a bit clunky in the US. They've now gone and much more elegantly incorporated. And the other thing I wanted to point out really, and this is a first, is that, and this is just for fixed head coupe, not for Cabrio, but I've done some homework on this, but we think it's a first that you don't see any body colour between the grille and the rear screen. For the first time, it's glazing. True, it's black glazing rather than clear glazing, for obvious reasons. But now you don't see painted bodywork above the grille and below the rear screen. That is all now one single glazed element, and I think it really works. It gives it, again, that 2020 crisp, because you got to wait until 2020 by the time all the other variants sort of come into production. But now you've got this single variant, a single design element rather, which makes the whole thing crisper. It's leaner, more elegant, more sparser. Now you haven't got the very busy 24 vertical strakes which you first saw on the 991.2. They've now gone, those strakes now. Should we go back a bit and have a look at that a bit more? Those strakes have now been reduced along here to 18, 9 aside, and you've got this, what Porsche are calling, I've got Christophorus here, and they're calling it the third central brake light, which is that thing. We'll talk about that in a moment. But anyway, so you've got 18 strakes, 2 in the middle for the high level brake light. That's it, opposed to 24. So you haven't got these kind of fat fingered piano black strakes that you've got, that I thought was looked a bit Halfordsy, if I may say so, on the 991.2, and I can say so because I bloody well got one. I thought that could have been made more elegant, and just painting them agate on a Carrera T did them no favours at all. I have actually seen them, I think at the 70th Brands Hatch anniversary shindig we had a few months ago, they actually had a Miami blue 991.2, and the strakes were painted in Miami blue as well, and it looked hideous with a capital H. I would have paid £450 to take the Miami blue off. Now strakes are much more elegant. They're more subtle, they're thinner, they're sparser, there's few of them, and they're more expensively executed. And I think this is the four-wheel drive version. If you come down, you'll see that they've also incorporated on these strakes a little silver fillet. This is just for the four-wheel drive version. So for aficionados, if you're stuck behind a four-wheel drive 992 and you see those little silver dorsal fins atop your rear deck lid strakes, it's a four-wheel drive car. You probably don't see it particularly well, but I thought that was a really neat little touch. So we like all that. Other good thing about the exterior, well, a bit like that metaphor of waiting for a number 9 bus, we've now got two wheel styles that you can get in, and this is OEM, you can get now in satin aurum gold. Our cup runneth over. I'm going off of black wheels. I think it's very 2010 maximum. You look at an Albanian Hitman, if it's all in black. The bloke round the corner from me has got one, 991.1, and it's even got black anodized trim. It's black everything. It's black everywhere, black wheels, and it just looks really rather outmoded now. So coloured wheels, I think, are back. Gold, bronze, that kind of thing. Kind of wheels that we saw on the Celebration 991.2 Gold Turbo S exclusive, I think is, that's probably not its full official title, but I think you know the one I mean. The one with the special forged wheels with the gold line that goes around the circumference. Anyway, different colour wheels are back in town, so to speak. And the great thing now and I think this is the only generation I've seen for a long time where all four, this is the RS Spider, but all four wheel designs now are uniformly pretty. They're all great, from Carrera S, and I think it goes Carrera S, RS Spider. You've got the wheel, which I think is going to be the most popular one if you don't care about colour, as long as it's like a grey or a black or titanium or whatever. And that's going to be called, I think that's called the Classic. I'm still coming to terms with all the titles, trying to keep up with what's on the configurator. And then you've got the Exclusive, which is not the wheel on this. That's the Fuchs lookalike wheel that you can kind of, as I said, looks like the wheel on the 991.1 50-year version. You know, that sort of tribute to to the Fuchs original style that we saw on the Carrera RS from 1973, that kind of style. But now you can get this this exclusive Fuchs tribute wheel with a gold background, with this Aurum gold background, and I think that the chamfered part of the 5 spokes you can get in Aurum gold, the hub's in Aurum gold, and you get that dished out section between each one of the spokes also in gold as well. And I think that could be the wheel to get, especially if you're sniffing around a Venturine as a colour. So generally, that notes that kind of rooster bending down in a chicken run kind of shape of rear wing, this full width rear wing. When it pops up into its second position, it blocks out the high level stoplight. Anyway, let's do interior. And I'll move this back. Forgive the repetition here, but otherwise it's going to run out. Interiors, well, I was stunned the fact that not only are we getting 2 greens on the exterior colour, we're getting 2 green leathers as well. Who requested green leather? I don't know. You crazy people at Zuffenhausen. But crazy good in this case. There's the agave, which I would probably go for myself, but it does mean that you get agave plastic as well. You don't get that bi-colour combo. For example, in the 991.2, you could get the black and the Bordeaux, which works in some instances. In this instance, if you want a green with the black roll top part of the dashboard, as well as obviously the perpendicular part of the dashboard, which is obviously black because that's all the screens these days in 992, you've got to go for this. I think it's leaf green. That's quite a light green. I don't know whether that works. Light greens can be very cold, whereas a dark green can work really well. But nonetheless, fantastic. Well done, Porsche. Somebody did say, this is perhaps a cynical salesman at an OPC that I know. He suggested, I've given his identity away now, haven't I? Could have said she. But anyway, she suggested that the reason why there are so many new colour palettes, or so many permutations with the new colour palette, I should say, with 992, is that they're trying to wean you away from going PTS and going down the manufacturer exclusive route or route. Simply because, if you're a bean counter at Zuffenhausen, of which I'm sure they have quite a few, average price, I'll do it in US dollars, average price of a 911 these days has got to be around about $120,000, $130,000, probably $130,000. Now, if you are a bean counter, you want your $130,000 from that chap or chapess over there within 3 months from order to delivery. Delivery, you pay the balance, $130,000 straight into, well, not straight, but you know what I mean. If you go down the manufacturer exclusive route, PTS, etc., it's paying the backside because now suddenly waiting 6 months, possibly even 8 months for your $130,000. So there is some method in the crazy madness of giving this much more extended colour palette both inside and out. But nonetheless, I think it's a good thing. Interior wise as well, people have mentioned this, what the Americans are calling the nubbin, which is this PDK switch rather than lever, and I think Mr. JWW said, or occasionally when he runs out of paddles on his GT3, he likes to hit the lever to change gears. That being somewhat more difficult to do, excuse me, if you're trying to hit the nubbin and not the bigger lever of PDK. Well, I suggest, Mr. JWW, if you're watching, that you'd have to wait until the new GT series comes out in 992. They'll probably do something about that new PDK switch anyway. They might even redesign the paddle shifters as well. Or you could just go and get yourself a manual GT3. And you can do that all day long. So, that's a little thing. Small detail, the Manatino sports chrono knurly knob thing, slightly more expensively designed in 991.2 and manufactured, of course. The script of drive mode just on the 992 one, which I presume then pops up all of your choices on screen. Looks a little heavy-handed, doesn't look as expensively manufactured as it did. The other thing in the interior, which I probably mentioned in passing as I jab at the screen, is this new Padao, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, wood option. I think for the first time since probably F-Series, you've now got, or those people that like wood, like myself, there's always a bit of an old Jaguar in a British petrol head, isn't there? But in this instance, because of the more three-dimensional effect of the new 992 interior, I think wood will work pretty well. Wood doesn't often work on other 911s. I don't think it worked particularly well on the 991. Frankly, it was too flat, too rectilinear. Whereas this more three-dimensional interior of 992, I think is going to work really well for wood. What is it? £1,200 option, maybe a bit more. But anyway, so that's a good thing. So, overall concerns. Right, this is a drum I banged on numerous occasions, and that is weights and measures. If you've got, and many people have this kind of popular combo of 991.2, 2S, PDK, what have you got? GT Silver, very safe choice. You're probably one of the 75% which have PCP'd it, put it on lease. You're thinking short term because it's 36 months. By the time you get into Q2 2019, even with 991.2 owners, you're probably looking at renewal. Either you're going to buy the car, pay your balloon payment or whatever it is, your balance, or indeed you're going to chop it in for a 992. And if you walked in with your 2S PDK 991.2 and you wanted not this one but that one, which I presume is a 2S, in a slightly better colour than racing yellow, in your GT Silver, your immediate impressions may be, God, I really like that. It's very impressive. Love that. It's been, there's the man himself. Yeah, really great. But it does look big and heavy. So, do your little bit of research. Yes, sir, that 4S without the 4 running gear of your 992 weighs, wait for it, 1,515 kilos, 1550 kg for a 992 2S with PDK. Now, that's approximately 55 kilos heavier than the equivalent 991.2. That's a lot of weight. 5 kilos, I won't bat an eyelid at. 15 kilos, I won't be too happy about. 55 kilos, Porsche, it's too much. Will you stop it? It's not clever and it's not funny adding this weight. And we've already had to have girth has increased, front and rear tracks. We can only get four-wheel or the wider body version now. I can understand why you did it in terms of rationalization of body manufacture. It makes sense. However, can you cut it out? Because we don't want weight being added all the time. And that weight means that the average DIN rated weight of a 992 these days will be in excess of 1.5 metric ton. And personally, I think that's too much. I can think of no one, whether I've read about them anecdotally or heard about them vicariously or know personally, or have ever had the yen to walk into an OPC and say, I love that 991.2, but there's only one thing I'd like you to do. Can you make it heavier? And then I'll buy it. And can you make it fatter or wider? And I'll buy it. Can you just make it dimensionally bigger so it makes my life on a British B road that much easier? No one's ever done that. So Porsche, please. Apparently, according to, you saw, there's that tail again. You saw Mr. Arkliner there chatting. He's confirmed there's definitely going to be a Carrera T in 992. There's Mr. Arkliner. great man. If there is, what's the weight going to be? 1425 kilos for the what I view as already overweight Carrera T on 991.2. Now we're going to have a 992 Carrera T. What the hell's that going to weigh? They'll probably celebrate it as a major triumph if it's under 1450 kilograms with a manual gearbox. Anyway, that's the thing that really concerns me. The other thing that concerns me is, again, 20-inch wheels on a 992, on a 991.2 rather, look fine to me. I didn't ever, particularly if they were sporting, PASM Sport with a drop of 20 mil or so, I never thought they looked under-wheeled, under-tired as a body shape. But now we have 21-inch, so we've got this 21-inch combo. And there's probably there's bound to be, with Porsche obviously, there's always going to be a reason for why you've got a 21-inch 30 series tyre, wheel tyre combination on the rear rather than the 20-inch. But these are all cast flow. I'm waiting for Porsche, because there's only 4 out at the moment, 4 styles. I'm waiting for Porsche to provide us with an OEM forged alternative, which they expect us on a non-GT car, on a production car, to spend over £6,500 on PCCBs, which is not an unusual, okay, it's less than 10% probably even 5% on non-GT cars, but people are still specifying on a GTS, for example. So why wouldn't you want to reduce unsprung weight with a forged wheel option? Particularly now, because these things at the rear, I've got 19-inch at the rear, and my 19-inch OEM cast flow wheel and 295 tyre is going to weigh considerably less, even before looking at forged, than these shocking great 21-inch wheel and tyre combination in cast flow at the rear of the 992. Now, I'm sure it adds greater traction, but where was the chicken and egg here? Was the wet mode necessary because they started to get aquaplaning with this great big 21-inch wheel, or is just the wet mode a logical continuation of providing greater and greater traction, at least dry traction, at the rear? I don't know. But it just makes this end of the 992 or the 911 range, which should be the bread and butter Swiss knife end of the range. It's not a Garage Queen GT car. This is the car to be used every day. It just makes it more complex. So when you want to swap winter and summer tyres around, you've got to buy 21-inch winter tyres now, rather than, in my case, 19-inch winter tyres, which are considerably cheaper. And I know it's not just about saving money, but there is that element of additional complexity. And it's a car that I think, frankly, didn't require 21-inch as standard. I mean, what's going to go on to the GT2 RS and the GT3 RS of the 992 era? We're going to be putting 22-inch, 23-inch on the back. So that concerns me a little bit, but mainly it's just adding the weight, and you can't take the weight out unless you want to go outside of the loving embrace of your OPC and go to a dealer of BBS or OZ wheels or something like that. Be interesting to see what our friends on the aftermarket do with these wheels. This is the exclusive wheel here, and as I say, that could look absolutely stunning with the Aurum, the satin Aurum gold inlays with the silver finished 5-spoke wheel, or 5-spoke style. Last thing, and probably not least, and this is why that 2S in excuse me, in 992 weighs a lot more than the 2S equivalent in 991.2, and that is the thing that doesn't get a lot of a look in, which is this new petrol particulates filter. Now, I've heard that adds somewhere between 7 to 10 kilos. I can't believe it's that much, but when you look at the weight differential, 55 kilos between those two commensurate, or two comparable 911s, so 991.2 and 992, you can start to believe it. But the most important thing, or one of, is though it may stylistically look better, because I was never a big fan of PSE on 991.2 with those rather apologetic ovoid pipes with that 200mm or so gap and the serrated plastic infill. It never really looked very good and didn't sound very good. But then I take my words back by saying that it didn't sound very good, because when you compare it to the PSE of 992, I think, and this is a prediction, you're going to be in for something of a shock. I've now listened to it. I think Car Magazine, Automotor and Sport had it when it first came out, and there was a 4S with PSE on startup, and it did not sound good. It made the PSE on 991.2 sound quite fruity. I've heard it again. I think Car Magazine in the UK now has a recording of the PSE starting up on a, again, 2S, 4S, doesn't really matter. And it was really disappointing. So I think we've reached kind of the era now of accepting that whatever you do with bi-turbo engines, they're never going to sound as great as NatAsp engines, unfortunately. And the problem, of course, that Porsche have got more than anyone else is because it's rear-mounted. They don't have a lot of exhaust pipe to play with to tune. So the distance between leaving the block, going through the manifolds, then the sports cats, then the silencers or silencer mufflers for you guys in the US, and then coming out of the two pipes of PSE. It doesn't give you much if you're an acoustic engineer for you to play with. You can't tune it. Whereas if the engine's right at the front, then, and you're Mr. AMG, then you've got a bit more piping, you've got a bit more trombone to play with in order to try and fine-tune the acoustics of the car, particularly from outside. So I think that's going to be one of the concerns for 992. Maybe you just have to embrace it. Certainly the 4-pot design, did we get a picture of it? Probably not. But that 4-pot design in this new rear element, design element, excuse me, at the on the 992, I think that looks way better than the 991.2. I've just put the twin tailpipe finishers on my bog standard Carrera, which looks better than those kind of rhomboid trapezoidal look standard trim finishes. But frankly, don't buy a 992 production car anyway, the bi-turbo, if you want to make it sound great. It won't. There'll be some kind of gerrymandering, artificial use of the sound symposer to ensure that you get certainly above 3000 RPM and more that classic 911 induction sound. But from outside, I think it's going to sound pretty disappointing. So that's the prediction. Okay, that's it. Hopefully it hasn't dragged on that much, but generally speaking, aesthetically, I'm overwhelmingly in favour of the car. I think it's got some great new design details which will set it in good stead for the next decade. And but would I want one? It's just weights and measures for me. It's just getting too big, too heavy already. It's putting on too much middle edge spread. That's my real concern. And we shall see about the sonic qualities. I'm sure it will drive brilliantly, and this wet mode is going to be very interesting. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching once again, and take it easy and drive safely out there. Bye for now.